A very good afternoon, all of you. Welcome to Super Coaching UPSC by Textbook. So, very good afternoon, all of you. So, today I'm coming up with a very interesting topic about the Peninsular River systems. I hope the audio and video is all clear. A warm good afternoon. Good afternoon again. Right. Let me join some of the people. Let me join you again. Right. So let me see some of the comments. Yes, Samiksha, good afternoon. Samiksha, good afternoon. Right. So today, as I was saying that, we'll be discussing about peninsular river systems. Before we discuss about the peninsulas, I would like to explain some few concepts about the river systems in general, or what should be the domain of approach, right? Now, have you ever seen this line? What do you call this line on the India map? What do you call this line? Yes. What do you call this line? Anyone? Yes, Samiksha, can you answer that? We call this line as water divide. This line is what we call it as a water divide. What does water divide will try to explain to us? What does water divide will try to explain to us? Anyone? What do you mean by that? See, when you are trying to understand about peninsular river systems in general, we need to understand these kind of concepts like what is catchment area, what is the water divide, all such kind of things, so that there is some kind of a clarity about discussion about drainage systems of India, be it the Himalayan river systems or peninsular river systems. Basically, today's session we are concentrating about the peninsular river systems in general. So if you see these concepts, the particular thing which I am trying to tell you here is, it is what we call it as water divide. Right? Because of this water divide, the examples what we are trying to tell you is, as the name itself says, it is a dividing line through which rivers will be traveling. Say example, as the river crosses here, you can see a river. Here you will find a mountain system. Let me draw with another color. So as you can see here, this is the thing which is about Western Ghats. So all the rivers move in different directions as you move from here. For example, you can see Godavari river, it travels towards east. You can see all the minor rivers. Say, for example, this is a river like Mandovi. All the west flowing smaller peninsular river systems from the Western Ghats towards Arabian Sea. So what is happening? This line, the Western Ghats mountain range, the physiography of Western Ghats is acting as a dividing line between the west flowing rivers and the east flowing rivers here in the peninsular India. That's why it is what we call it as water divide. Similarly, you'll also find that water dividing line is across the Vindhyas and the Satpuras, and then you will find the Aravalis like this. So here you can see the rivers Narmada and Narmada river is moving along the Vindhyas and the Satpuras. So here you will be finding the Vindhyan mountains, then you will find the Satpuras mountains. So between these two you will find the Narmada river which is traveling. Then beyond that Aravalis. So all the rivers here, for example, the Chambal, Kane, Betwa rivers, all the travel eastwards here like this, north and northeastwards. And you will see that river Sabarmati travels westwards or travels west and the south. Luni river travels around west. So what is the thing? This is the dividing line which will differentiate the river movements. You can see here, this is the Mahi river, this is the Sabarmati river. Look at the directions. Luni river, Look at the Chambal River direction, Sindh River direction, Kane River direction. This is northeast. And look at this direction, it is around the southwest. So southwest and this is south and the west, southwest. So you can clearly say that the rivers are moving in multiple directions, and the dividing line happens to be the physiography of a region. So that is what you call it as a watershed. So whenever you study about these concepts, you need to be understanding about few concepts, few things like what do you mean by watershed? So this is what we call watershed. What do you mean by catchment area? Catchment area. What do you mean by drainage basin? So drainage basin, catchment area, as well as watershed. The differentiation is very, very crucial for us to understand about different concepts. Are you following, all of you? Right? Are you following? Right? So if you talk about watershed, the watershed, catchment area, drainage basin and all, watershed is the one which is actually nothing but the dividing line where the water gets from, dividing line through which a river gets water from, through which a river gets its water. The moment you are crossing the watershed, the river will not be getting that. Generally, all the three are one and the same for a common man. But there is a subtle variation about each and everything. Catchment area is where the river and its tributaries gets its water. Gets its water. Right? So this is the dividing line. Okay? Dividing line. This is the river tributaries gets its water from catching. Where does the water is falling? Where they are getting? That is what it is called as a catchment thing. Then drainage basin. Drainage basin is about the where the river and the tributaries are traveling or crossing the path. River system put together, that is both the main river and the tributaries, including the tributaries, are where they are flowing. Or in other words, we can say area covered by the river systems. Then you might ask me, all the three are one and the same, isn't it? It looks like very much the same. It looks like the same, but that is the subtle variation. You can see here the base of a river. Any river where its origins, that is what we call the source or the, this is what we call it as a source or the origin of a river. Now as the river travels, as you can see here, as the river travels here, now it is coming up with other tributary systems. For example, you all remember Ganga river system, Gangotri, Yamunotri. These are two glaciers. Gangotri glacier, Ganga river originates. Yamunotri glacier, Yamuna river originates. So when they originate as smaller streams and they are met by other things. Look at the words like the confluences of Ganga. These are all the confluences we can say. As the river meets, the rivers where its other smaller streams are meeting, we call them as what? Tributaries. This is what we call it as tributaries. Then as the river meets together here, now a big river system is meeting another river. This is what we'll call it as mainly as a confluence, where anything can be a confluence. Then this whole thing, now this is the area, this dotted black color line is what we call it as a dividing line or the watershed. That means any rainfall which occurs here will be getting water to this river. If the rainfall falls here, this would be for another river system. Now you see this picture. This is what is called water divide. Along the mountain, this is one river system, this is another river system. This is river basin A, this is river basin B or any other river system. Similarly, you can see here, now you see the dividing line. You see this is the watershed. This is what we call drainage divide. Then this would be the one river system, this is the another river system. Now over a period of time, you will see the exact variation. Now this is what we call the river gets its water from This is the area covered by the tributaries. Now you see the words. The dividing line between one area and another area is watershed or the drainage divide. The area covered by the river and the tributaries, catchment, that is what you call it as drainage basin. Then the catchment area where the river and its tributaries gets its water from. All three are one and the same, but all three has different annotations, meanings to it. That is the base. Now this is the background of a river system. So why are you learning about this? What is the significance of understanding catchment areas? For example, when you talk about a river system like, Godavari river system, let me tell you this. You can see this. There is a river called Godavari. Okay, this is the main river Godavari. Originates from Trimbakeshwar, Nashik, right? Then as it travels like this, okay, let me show you the, right, yes. Okay, this is the main river, yeah. So what we are trying to understand about is about the river systems and the tributaries and all. If you talk about the main river Godavari, you can see here originates like this. This is how the Godavari river travels. Now there are so many river systems of Godavari, the tributaries. For example, there is a river called Venganga. There is a river called Vardha. Okay, Venganga river comes from Madhya Pradesh. Vardha river, mostly it is traveling in the Maharashtra region. Now what happens is, then you have a Indravati river which is in Chhattisgarh, right? Now you see, there is a place called Rajamandri in Andhra Pradesh. So for a regions of Rajamandri in Andhra Pradesh, when you see that there is a Dhavaleshwara dam here, there is a dam by name Dhavaleshwaram, and there is also a proposal for a project called the Polavaram River Project on this river Godavari. Now if you see, when Godavari gets its water, when there is a flooding in the months of June, July, August, September, usually that is the monsoon season which we get rainfall, the catchment area is the indicator of whether this region will get rainfall or not. For example, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Chhattisgarh, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, 5 states. Wherever you will find the river systems, you will find wherever you will find rainfall here, the river like the Godavari will be getting more water and Rajamandri gets its more amount of floods. So that is a crucial thing. Why are you learning about these river systems? Which areas are they covering? How many countries a transboundary river will be crossing? For example, the Himalayan rivers, or how the peninsular river systems are traveling, in which are the states are they covering? That will determination about which areas are we having around rainfall, which areas that will determine about the flooding, that will determine about the management of the water resources, that will determine about how we can plan agriculture there, that will determine about the development of cities along the river banks. Say you have a big city like Hyderabad along the rain shadow region of the Western Ghats in Telangana, right? So how do you think that Telangana is that Godavari river, that Hyderabad is getting its water from? The traditional tanks and all which are constructed around Hyderabad for thousands of years. That is one source. The another major source of water for big cities like Hyderabad is the Godavari river system and the Krishna river system, which are very near to it. So what is the essence of learning about where are the rivers traveling is that will determine your city development, that will determine your agriculture, that will determine your power projects and whatnot, even around the coal resources. For example, Singareni is one of the coal resource found along the Godavari river, right? So years of movement of the rivers, that is where you will find, because this is a water body, the fossils, that is what you will see some kind of correlation with respect to fossil growth, and that is what is coal about, it is a fossil fuel, you will see that relationship. The idea of learning about the origin of a river and the traveling path is to know about these kind of things. I hope you all have understood this essence now, right? This is the thing. So whenever you are preparing about any river system, you need to understand this. That's the thing which I'm trying to tell you here. See here, Godavari river, There is only one major river system of Godavari. But the tributaries of Godavari, you can see here, there is a tributary called Penganga. This is Venganga, right? This is the Indravati river coming from different corners of the different southern Indian states, be it across the Chhattisgarh, be it across Madhya Pradesh, be it across Maharashtra, you will find multiple variations. That is what you need to understand. Hope I am clear, all of you. Are you able to understand this? Right. Then, in general, what are the characteristics of peninsular rivers? What are their characteristics? For example, the usual lengths of peninsular rivers, the major river system like Godavari itself, the length of the river is 1465 kilometers, whereas Ganga river is 2525 kilometers. So, usually peninsular rivers have smaller catchment area when compared with the Himalayas. Usually, they originate in the peninsular hill ranges. They usually originate in the peninsular hill ranges, say like Western Ghats, Eastern Ghats, and the plateaus. Right. Then, do they have more amount of water throughout the year? Definitely not. They don't have not much amount of water throughout the year. So you would see that they are what we call seasonal in nature. Why they are called seasonal in nature? Simple point. The river gets its water from the southwest monsoon season, which is only for 3 to 4 months. Southwest monsoon season, which is only for 3 to 4 months. Right. 3 to 4 months. The other side, you will not be having rainfall. If you talk about the distribution of rainfall across 1 year, you will find that the distribution is very, very less. This is one dimension. The second dimension we will also find about other characteristics. You will find is usually there are older river systems which have been significantly eroded the topography around them. So the rivers are old and significantly eroded the topography around them. For example, when you talk about Eastern Ghats of India, Eastern Ghats are not a continuous stretch. They have been dissected, divided, or in other words, eroded by the rivers like Godavari and Krishna. If you see in Andhra Pradesh, the Eastern Ghats mountain structures, you will find a vast gap. They are not like a continuous line like you find in the Western Ghats. You find a vast gaps. There is no formational structural unity nor physical continuity for the Eastern Ghats. Why don't you think they are not like a continuous stretch like this? Because the rivers like because a river like Godavari, a river like Krishna have eroded this area. They have eroded this entire area. Now you will find that these these things, what you are talking about, the hill ranges are like a patch. They are not a continuous stretch because Godavari river formed around, it is an old river system. It is not the latest river system. It is not young. We all know that peninsular India is part of the old river thing called Gondwana land. It is part of the Gondwana land. So when peninsular India is part of the Gondwana land, definitely it will have an impact like this. I hope you are able to follow, right? So that is because of that variation, you will find that there is a difference. So that's why we are saying that rivers are old, significantly eroded the topography around them. In other words, they are in the old stage known for significantly erosion, especially rivers like Godavari, Krishna, right? Then because of this, you will find that They form deltas, but they also form estuaries. Estuaries. One important thing you need to understand, the path or the area covered by the peninsular rivers, the path or the area covered by the peninsular rivers, you will see that path or the area covered by peninsular rivers is mostly the peninsular hill ranges and the plateaus, but definitely not the plains. And these hill ranges and all, the kinds of soil is the rock is there, it is mostly granitic variety, gneiss variety, igneous and metamorphic variety. So the area where these rivers are traveling, that area is mostly composed of igneous and metamorphic rocks, not of sedimentary rock. Definitely erosional load will be lesser when compared with Himalayas. That is why deltas are very less in general, but the delta is high because of erosion over decent distances. That is the thing. Erosional load when compared with Godavari river with respect to Ganga, erosional load of Godavari would be lesser because the area they are covering is of more igneous and metamorphic, definitely not sedimentary. Whereas river like Ganga, moving across from the lesser Himalayas, by the time they reach Shivaliks itself, lesser Himalayas to Shivaliks, Shivaliks are known for sedimentary rock formations, the conglomerate variety of rocks. It is a sedimentary rock. Sedimentary rocks are weaker, easy to erode, and the slope is also quite high, easy to erode. So because of that, deltas are much more dominant in the Himalayas, whereas for peninsular rivers, deltas are there, but not that there. Whereas on another side, a river like estuary, the west flowing rivers, a river like Narmada, the west flowing river, it is moving across the Vindhyas and the Satpuras. So the area where it is traveling, though it is decently high in terms of around 1000 kilometers length, there is not much amount of load which is traveling, it is carrying, because of which you don't find deltas on the west coast. In fact, it is mostly the east coast where you find deltas. Estuaries are mostly developed on the western coast. So if you see here, so let me explain this. Yeah. So if you see here, Narmada river, you see traveling all the way from Madhya Pradesh and then into Gujarat and then into Arabian Sea. This Narmada river almost travels for 1000 kilometers, but this area is mostly igneous rock and metamorphic rock, because of which you will not find much kind of any kind of erosion. That's why here there is not much amount of deposits, rather we only have estuaries. What are estuaries here? Estuaries are place where a river is meeting the ocean and where there is a dominance of fresh water. Whereas here you will find delta. Say the Krishna Godavari delta, the Mahanadi delta, the Kaveri delta, the Ganga Brahmaputra delta here, the Sundarbans. This is from the Himalayas, but these rivers form deltas here, form estuaries here. The reason for estuary formation, one, extent of length. All the smaller river systems here, say you have river, uh, you have the famous water, the Sharavati river, where you find the famous Jog Falls. You find the river Mandovi of Goa. Smaller west flowing rivers which originate from the Arabian Sea, which originate from the Western Ghats and then travel into Arabian Sea. They travel for smaller kilometers. When they traverse for small kilometers, few areas, definitely they are traveling. For example, the distance in some of the places here, you can see here, the distance is so low that it is just around 60 kilometers. Imagine you coming from the Arabian Sea, in 60 kilometers, you can see the mountains and you can also see the beaches. It's almost like people who are fond of beaches and mountains together. This is one such place where you can get all of them in a very short distance. Imagine you are enjoying the mountains on one day, and by the next day you are enjoying the beautiful sandy beaches. So that is how Karnataka is there. The Konkan coast, the Karnataka, places like Udupi and all those places, you have beautiful beaches here on one side. On another side, you can go across the mountains as well, both at a very, very nearer. So the topography is very beautiful here, which is meant for our tourism, right? So that is why you can develop this area as a very, very popular thing. Right. So this is the thing, that the area covered is less. That is why the rivers are going for shorter distance, no opportunity for erosion much. That is why no load. See, a smaller river system which travels for around only around 100 kilometers. The origin and the source, the origin and their destination, which is the mouth, the river is traveling only for around 100 kilometers. Where do they have the capacity to erode? So no erosion, no amount of deposition. That is why no deltas, estuaries. Whereas Narmada, despite the length is high, why do you find that delta is very less? Because the area covered, it is mostly of granitic igneous rock, lesser capability to erode. Whereas sedimentary rock here, easy to erode. This is the difference, right? So these are the basic things. When you talk about the lengths, when you talk about the area, when you talk about the extent of the things, what do they cover, how much, what are the features which are available, you will find that there is a stark contrast between the Himalayan river system and the peninsular river system between these two. Those are the characteristics. Also, this is the base. Now what we'll do, let us take the baseline and study about one river system in detail, like the Godavari river system. Godavari river system. Now as you can see here, Godavari, this is the river. So where does the river Godavari origin? For every river, you need to study in these lines. Mappings are very, very important. Origin of Godavari river system. Trimbakeshwar near Nashik. Trimbakeshwar, Nashik, Maharashtra. The origin of river Godavari is Trimbakeshwar near Nashik. Then the next thing, what is the length of the river? What is the length of the river? Now the length talks about the extent of area covered as well, 1465 kilometers. The second most important river after Ganga in terms of length completely in India. So when I talk about Indus, it's a transboundary river originating from China, Tibetan province, then into India, then into Pakistan. Brahmaputra, mostly it is around the Tibet, China, then into Arunachal Pradesh, that is the thing, India, then it is traveling even to Bangladesh, right? So you can see the lengths are varied. Brahmaputra high length is 2880 kilometers, 2880, but within India, very less. That's why it is the second most in India after Ganga, right? So origin is very important. The length is very important to understand. Then the area which is covered, for example, river system and its states. River system, area covered. This is very important because whenever a dispute happens, these are the states which will come into the picture. So these are the things which you might ask about questions. River system and its area covered. For example, we all know that Godavari river system, Maharashtra, it travels from Maharashtra, then enters into Telangana, then enters into Andhra Pradesh. This is fair enough. Every one of us will know that. But it also gets its tributaries from other states like Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, right? It also gets its tributaries from Karnataka. Yes, even some of the tributaries gets its river from Karnataka. You'll also get it from Odisha, right? And down south, near their mouth, it is also traveling to a small province of Puducherry, which is called as Yanam. So even the union territory of Puducherry also comes into the picture. So look at the states, right? So this is the kind of things which it is covering. You see here, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, Madhya Pradesh. So all the states are covered, and here you will find the Puducherry, Yanam. So all the states are the areas where the river Godavari is moving. Then you can see about the tributaries. You need to remember about the important tributaries here. You can see the tributaries: Pen Ganga, Vardha, Ganga. All these things together we'll call it as Pranahita here. So all these are important tributaries. So let us remember some important tributaries of Godavari. Important tributaries. So what did I'm talking about? Vardha, Venaganga, Penaganga, right? Together we will also call it as Pranahita. This is where you will find that Kaleshwaram project very near to this Pranahita. Then you have, right, Saileru River, Indravati, Sabari. Now all these are tributaries of Godavari. Now these tributaries are very important when they ask about questions about which of the following are tributaries of this. Similarly, one such important tributary, right bank tributary we have, is about the right bank tributaries also they can discuss, left and right. So what is left and right? Very simple. If this is a river, right, this is the left bank, this is the right bank. So they can also divide the questions into left and right, but mostly you can talk about the left bank, or you can generally prepare about the tributaries. As for a smaller river system, you can only discuss about the tributaries. Because it is an important river system of South India, you can divide this as left and right. All these are left only. These are all are left rivers, left bank. The right bank tributaries you can discuss like Manjira, Prevara, Peddavagu, right? So there are left, right bank. You have things like Manjira, Peddavagu, Prevara. So some of the right bank, some of left bank. Mostly important about the left bank river systems. This is the basic knowledge in terms of mapping everyone should need to have. Then once you understand about these things, then you can identify some big places. For example, Rajahmundry, a big place, Rajahmundry, known for say an industry in the past. It is also known for some kind of a paper industry. Even now it is there. So maybe such questions are lesser in nature, but big city is there, Rajahmundry. Nowadays there is a talk about the Polavaram project. Polavaram project is above Rajahmundry here. Above Rajahmundry here. They have identified here because it will cover the water of Saileru, Sabari and the Godavari system together. So Polavaram is here where it can get water from. And along the Polavaram itself, there is a local mountain system of the Eastern Ghats, which we call it as Papikondalu. Such questions also might be covering up because it is part of the current affairs. Then going as you north, you can see this is where you will find the region like Kaleshwaram. So along the Kaleshwaram, you will find all the river systems. The Venganga, Penganga, Vardha and all meet together, which we call Pranahita. You see, this is the Pranahita. And this is where you will find the Kaleshwaram river project in Telangana on the Godavari river. That question becomes important. Like that, they can ask about questions about importance with respect to projects, important pilgrimage centers. Nashik, we all know important pilgrimage centers. Similarly, you have around some pilgrimage centers here. Bhadrachalam, okay. Ram temple is there. Very important thing. That's what you can talk about Bhadrachalam. So like that, they can also ask questions about rivers, calls about cities, cost about cultural centers, whatnot, mapping. At least a basic coverage of big river systems is needed. Hope you all have understood about today's session, right? So this is about the Godavari river system. We will come back with all such topics every day again Tomorrow we'll discuss about previous year questions asked from Indian physiography and India climate. We'll discuss about all those kind of things. And for more such information about my classes and all, you can get into my Telegram channel. Until then, Jai Hind. Thank you.